probably watching the ads. I like that squealer ad about making those big spinners and worse than squeal. There we go. There's a good one.
There you go. Couldn't work that any better.
I'll just pause for a minute.
Clear our head.
Yeah. I mean, what a contrast. We have a farm girl who's a hard worker and helped straighten out a mess in the courthouse in Montgomery County, and the state senator that's helped us get the state financial house in order. She's a conservative, she's a soldier, she's a mother, and she wants to go to work and straighten out the financial mess. And you got Bruce Bailey, who's been there. The only place he ever served in the Congress, and every one of those years the deficit has gotten bigger and the debt's gotten bigger and bigger. He was the final speaker in favor of Obamacare. He was the author of Cash for Clunkers. I mean, and he brags about fighting tort reform for 30 years and now wants to represent the trial lawyers in Texas because he doesn't want a farmer from Iowa chairing the Senate Judiciary Committee. Well, I think Iowans, well, first of all, we got over 50 lawyers in the Senate. We don't need another one. Grassley needs somebody that will vote with him, not against him, and somebody with a farm background that will be an advocate for our Iowa values. So we got a great candidate there. When I called to congratulate David on winning at the convention, he says, "Well, we got Ernst & Young. That's our candidate for the Senate and the Congress." So with that, and I think David fits the mold very well for this district. Tom Latham has great temperament, he's been a great representative for us, and David has a similar, I'd say, temperament. He treats people with respect and dignity. I think one of the reasons why the people all kind of coalesced behind David was he never had anything negative to say about any of the other 5 candidates. And that's a contrast to his general election opponent, who, I remember the nasty thing she said about Julian when she ran against him, and the nasty thing she said about the other people she's run against. I mean, she is one nasty, negative person who has a record of in the Senate being there and voted for Culver's big debt, voted for all the budget mess that we ended up with. So we need somebody that represents Iowa values, and somebody, and with David, having been Chuck Grassley's chief of staff, he knows what needs to be done there, and he can hit the ground running. He'll tell you more about himself, but I've just been really impressed to see the way Republicans are coming together. We need to win this district. We've had a great representative, and with David Young, we'll have another great representative who really will represent us. And this is a critical time in our state and our country's history. We've got to have people that have the fiscal responsibility and the fortitude to make the tough decisions. And we've got that kind of person. I'm very honored to be here to endorse and support our next congressman from this district. Since I now live in Paracel, I can vote for him.
Well, another hand for the nation's best and most effective governor. He's done so much for our state. You know, our state is great. And you know, for people, the land, our values, and we're doing a lot better than most states out there. One reason is because of our leadership. Julian, Stan, the governor, for what they do for this state. Also, you know, our unemployment rate is really, really low. Look in the mirror. I mean, that's why. Iowans just know how to work. We're wired to work. It's in our DNA. We just get the job done. Now, I'm from Van Meter, not too far from here. I spent a lot of time in Winterset. Dr. Larson was my dentist. And you know, the nearest pool was Adel, but Winterset had a better pool at the time during those hot summers. A lot of time at the Covered Bridge Festival and what have you, and here in the county is where I, cut my teeth on hard labor, baling hay and walking beans when you walk beans, and working on the farm. Born and raised in Van Meter, but my family came out in 1881. They came out from Germany to Pocahontas County, around Verina and Fonda. They worked on the railroad and they farmed, and they eventually made their way down here to Van Meter, where my grandparents had Young's Cafe. My mom and dad met in junior high, eventually got married. My brother and sister and I just had a great small town life, small town values. And there's more common sense on any street corner in Winterset or Van Meter than there is in Washington, D.C. altogether. I'll tell you that right now. I went to Drake University. I am not a lawyer. And then after that,
Now, you got 3 lawyers here that all will cheer for that.
went to Drake University and worked around Des Moines for a little bit after that. And then, got to see what was going on in the country and wanted to add my voice to some of the solutions out there and work for the people of Iowa. So I went to Washington and I knocked on Senator Grass's door. For the past 7 years, it was an honor to work for him as his chief of staff, but more importantly, work for the people of Iowa, against the bureaucracy, against kind of the zaniness that people get out there by drinking that Potomac water. Being from Van Meter, the Raccoon River water is just fine with me. And that's what I choose. But I've seen what works and what doesn't work, and most of it doesn't work. But I've also seen what can be done and how to get it done. And my relatives came out here in 1881 for opportunity, for that American dream and those God-given rights enshrined in our nation's most sacred documents. But there are challenges here today, but that American dream is still there. We've just got to roll up our sleeves and get busy. There's 3 deficits I talk about that I see, and that's the budget deficit, jobs deficit, and trust deficit. We're almost at about $18 trillion in debt. And, you can point fingers at the Democrats and the liberals or whoever, but you know what? Both parties are somewhat complicit in this. And I want to make sure that we are the party of fiscal discipline, not for the sake of owning the issue, but because it's so important to this country to make sure that we have balanced budgets and we rein in spending and get rid of this debt. Iowans hate debt. You hate debt. Your family budget, your business budget, if you go into debt, there's going to be some real repercussions and some that we just don't want to face. So we need to balance our budgets. The state does it. We need to change the way we budget in Washington. It's kind of zany what they do out there, this baseline budgeting where members of Congress just give money, the same amount of money to agencies and departments as they did the year before, if not a little more. There's no accountability. There's no transparency, and that's what we need in government, transparency. It's your government. It seems like we've been working for the government needs to work for the taxpayer. The jobs deficit, like I said, in Iowa, we're doing great. Your hard work, the leadership here at the state with the governor, in our ag economy, financial services economy, we're just doing great. But you know what, nationally, we're above 6% unemployment. And you could almost double, maybe triple that for what the underemployment is. People have just given up. Some of these people are our neighbors, our friends, maybe family members. They've just given up, and we need to re-engage them in this economy. We need policies that are pro-growth, that give certainty in this economy so people can invest in this economy. But if you really want to get at the jobs issue, you got to take a look at this tax code. We're at 74,000 pages in this tax code. Isn't that amazing? It's so complicated, so hard to understand. If you're having trouble sleeping at night and you have insomnia, I tell people just whip out the tax code, start reading, you'll be snoozing by the end of page 1. But we need to make our tax code anything but what it is right now. Let's have the debate about the flat tax, the fair tax, or lowering individual rates, but whatever it is, we need to make it certain. We need to bring permanence to this because there are a lot of people out there, small business owners who want to grow, farmers who want to grow their farm, entrepreneurs, they want to invest in this economy and create jobs, but they're hesitant to do so if they don't know what the rules are 2 or 3 years out. We don't need to be handing over 1/6 of the economy to the federal government like we did with health care. We need to pass the Keystone Pipeline for jobs, energy security, national security. Just the common sense perspective that you folks have in Washington, D.C., and I'll carry that. And that last deficit I talked about, the trust deficit, sometimes it's the most important one. Accountability in government means a lot to you and it means a lot to me. One of the rules and tools that I learned from Senator Grassley is you can do the constituent service and pay attention to the folks here in the 3rd District. You can do your voting, but when things are log jammed, there are tools of oversight and investigations to watch this government, to make it accountable, to see what they're doing with your taxpayer dollars. Whether it's what happened in the Veterans Administration with veterans health care, whether it's what the EPA is doing. You know, we're an agricultural state, and folks at the EPA don't quite understand what's going on here in Iowa. To them, we're just flyover country. They wanted to regulate dust. You can't control the wind. They want to regulate methane gas from cows and livestock. And now they want to try to redefine water under the Clean Water Act, which could really harm not just farms, but any kind of economic development, where they want to perhaps regulate dry creek beds, or maybe have a permit process for you to tile your fields. That would backlog the farming community and hurt our economy in a big way. But our president talks about these being phony scandals. He says they're not real. Benghazi was real. 4 Americans, 4 patriots died. Their family members need to know what happened, why it happened. And we need to know who was accountable to make sure it never happens again. Fast and Furious was real. Our government was selling guns to drug lords in Mexico. They came back and killed our own. This is our government doing this. Accountability within the EPA, the IRS, who are intimidating conservatives, Republicans, because of their religious beliefs. They wanted to know what you wanted to pray. This is our government. I will be a taxpayer watchdog when it comes to fiscal issues, and I will keep an eye on this government because, quite frankly, folks, you know that this government's big and it's watching us. Senator Grassley taught me 3 things that I'll never forget. 1, how to listen. I'm talking right now, but many times I'm out there, more times than not, I'm asking questions. I want to know what you think. I want to know what your solutions are to the problems out there. I want to know what you identify as problems. Some of the best cures for what are going on come from the grassroots. They come from you who have real life, everyday experiences. So I will listen because I can be no better an advocate unless I know what families are saying. 2, you're my boss. Not party leadership, not the president, not this group, that group, but the people in the 3rd District of Iowa. You have the ability to hire me and fire me. I report to you. And 3rd, as a person of faith, something I learned from Senator Grassley, integrity that I want to emulate him on, you don't have to sell your soul out to get things done. You can be an honest broker, stick to your principles, you don't have to compromise, you can cooperate, and get things done. And I will do that for you. I will listen, remember you're my boss, and I'll keep the faith for the good Lord and for you. So this election is important. I am just so humbled to be your nominee and on the ticket with the governor, but you know, that's no given. You have to do the work. You folks are very important. Word of mouth, door knocking, the emails, the letters. You folks make it happen. You're the ground crews. And I'm honored to be your nominee. Let's get Phil elected. Governor Mayor, thank you so much for what you do here, Winterset. He went to school with my dad at Buena Vista, so you're here to be, so. But we have a strong team. The work has to be done. I'm looking forward to being representing you. I'll be honored and humbled too, and you will see me often. But thanks for coming here to this gathering, and we'll just mingle around and talk to each other. So thank you.
Comments? Thank you. Yeah. Good to see you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I was a very excited don't forget all that. Yeah. You got a whole district. You got a guy. Iowa voters are, I've been elected 5 times.
I have gone.
It's still a good meeting. I work with extraordinary partners. I think the reason why I have one so you will vote for a woman when you start. Gotta give it. But it's not open. Here to the
I don't need to get one, but I need one to stay, but I got David and
I have very, very good friends from Hawaii.
Her husband,
I was going to play a great tournament. What is
I have seen her.
I don't like getting well, I know
it's not. Nobody will ever work harder than that. When you go to every county every year, you work day in and day out in the a lot of politicians.
My wife and